When I saw the trailer for Turning Red, my heart melted. I thought it looked absolutely adorable. And then once I learned what the premise was for this, I thought this sounds fantastic. There was a lot of hype surrounding this film. Was it going to live up to expectations? Oh no. This completely exceeded any expectations I had for this. This is one of my all-time favourite Disney Pixar films, absolutely instantly. And easily one of the best Disney films of the 21st century. It's absolutely phenomenal. So I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I do suggest you watch it. It is on Disney Plus, and I promise you will love it. This was released, of course, this year, and it's directed by Domee Shi. And I also have to point out if I mispronounce anybody's names when I go through the cast. I completely apologise. I'm terrible at pronunciations. This is about a 13-year-old girl called Mai, and she basically turns into a giant red panda whenever she experiences severe emotions, primarily overexcitement. Needless to say, this is going to cause some problems because she has to go to school, she has to have a social life. Teenagers get excited and they get over emotional, and she's going to turn into a red panda in sticky situations. But there's an opportunity for her to utilize this panda to her benefit. Morally, maybe not the greatest, but she's a teenage girl. Will she end up learning to love the panda, or will it get in the way of her happiness and, of course, make her stick out like a sore thumb? I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think this visual representation of this 13-year-old girl who is clearly going through some significant hormonal changes is spot on. I think I've never, when I look back at my teenage years, if I think of my hormonal fluctuations, I never would have referred to it as being a red panda. But when you see the physical representation, it totally makes sense. But there's actually a mythical aspect to this as well, which I'm not actually going to go into. I'll try that sentence again. I'm not actually going to go into too much detail about, because even though it's a really important part of the narrative, I wasn't aware of it beforehand, and I really enjoyed discovering that through the film. So I don't want to spoil that too much, but I will just say it involves her family heritage and a particular spiritual aspect. I won't say any more than that, but I thought it gave it a bit more of a dimension. It wasn't necessary. They could have just left it as a teenage girl who somehow turns into a red panda. Yeah, there would have been questions about, well, why is this happening? But it wasn't necessary. But they took that extra step. They gave it a bit more padding, a bit more dimension, made it even more meaningful, and brought in that family aspect. And I think it works so well. And there are so many things about this that I love. So the narrative, spot on, completely blew me away. The animation style may be the best I've ever seen from Pixar. I genuinely think this is the strongest visually they've ever created. The attention to detail is ridiculous. I'm talking in the foreground, in the background, little things that you won't pick up on the first time, silly things like the backpack being from the brand Bag Sport. All of these little things, references to everyday things that we all relate to, but also things that teenagers will relate to. The tiny Tamagotchi, absolutely loved it. I love her friends. I think they work together really well. I think they have a great mix of personalities. It's a very believable friendship group, which is something that I find to be really important with these kind of films. Her mother, I can see why her mother is the way she is. But sometimes I wish Mai would just kind of step up to her a little bit more. But we do have some great character progression throughout this. It is absolutely sensational. Meilin is voiced by Rosalie Chiang. Ming is voiced by Sandra Oh. And, the vocal work across the board is brilliant. It's got a fantastic soundtrack provided by Four Town, which you will learn more about when you watch this. And I thought that was a particularly timely, relevant thing that a lot of teenagers would enjoy. Which teenager doesn't like boy bands? Me. I didn't, but that's, I was a bit of an anomaly with that regard. But not as anomalous as a giant red panda. So cute, so fluffy. Just takes everything that people are looking for at the moment. The narrative is so beautiful, so poignant, so incredibly well executed. It's full of surprises, it is such a dramatic emotional roller coaster, and visually, it's one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a very long time. Pixar had an idea, they ran with it, and I'm so pleased they did, because it's completely pulled off. They've pulled this off expertly, and I wasn't sure to begin with. I knew I'd like it, but I thought, is this going to be a bit gimmicky? Is the protagonist going to be a bit annoying? No, absolutely not. Any fears or worries I may have had, completely destroyed. Turning Red is one of the best films I've seen this year so far. Easily one of my top Pixar films of all time. Definitely one of the best Disney films of this century, maybe the previous century as well. It's absolutely perfect.